So the movements may start soon. In terms of, apparently by Monday, there's a deadline for GMs to ask players to waive no movement clauses or full no trade clauses, which will prevent them from being exposed in the expansion draft. Oh, this could be dicey. There are players who signed these contracts, no movement, and whether we as fans agree with them or not, I understand them in that if you're in your early 30s, you've got a young family, you may go to a team and say, all right, you're going to sign me. I want to know I'm not going to get traded. I want to know I'm not going to be cast aside. I want to know I'm a core guy for the amount of time that I'm going to play here. So they say, all right, here's 6 years. We'll give you a little bit lower than market value, but we'll throw in this no movement clause. And you go, you know what? I'm not getting full market value here, but that no movement clause sure does give me some peace of mind, and I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. And my kids will sleep knowing that they're still going to have the same schools next year. And now that's all going to get set on its ear because of expansion. Because teams want to be able to protect more players than they're able to protect right now. So, looking at teams and looking through Cap Friendly, Kevin BX has apparently already agreed to waive. BX has a $4 million cap hit, 1 year left. He's not going anywhere. There's no way he's going to get signed by somebody else or picked up and moved. Arizona, I don't think they have any. Yeah, they don't have any. Arizona, smart team. Smart teams don't have a bunch of guys bogging them down. Boston, no movement clauses. Krejci has one. They won't ask him. They won't ask Marchand. They won't ask Bergeron. Backus has 4 years left at $6 million per. I can't see Vegas touching him if he was suddenly exposed. I can't. I cannot see Vegas touching him. Not at that kind of term with 4 years left. Even if you could say, well, they could flip him and trade him. I don't know any other teams are necessarily going to want that contract either. I think that contract was iffy when it was signed, and now it's kind of persona non grata. Chara, $4 million for next year, no movement clause. I can't see them asking him to waive because I don't think they're going to lose anybody off the blue line anyways. So, Backus is a maybe. I can't see it, though. They just signed him last summer. Buffalo. Okposo, yeah, that's not going to happen. And Okposo's the only one in Buffalo. Smart team. Calgary. I don't think there's any in Calgary. Brian Burke's there. Brouwer has a no-trade clause. They could ask him to waive. Giordano, they're obviously not going to ask Giordano. That's not going to happen. Carolina. No movement clause for Stahl. He's signed for $6 million per for the next 6 years. If Carolina was worried about losing somebody major, I would say, yep, go ahead, get him to waive and see if Vegas looks at Jordan Stahl and sees a guy they want. I don't think so. Skinner's the only other one with a no movement clause up front, and there's no other new movement clauses to discuss. So that's the end of that. Chicago, as my dad used to say, Chicago. Well, you've got Kane, Taves. Hossa, apparently there's a rumor he's been asked or is going to be asked to waive his. He has 4 years left at $5.275 million per. I can't see anybody touching that. Anisimov, I can't see him being asked to waive his. Seabrook and Duncan, I can't see either of them, but Seabrook at $6.875 million per for the next at least 7 years. The chart cuts off at 2024. They could ask him. Remember, by exposing these players that Vegas won't touch, you're allowed to protect some of these young guys you're worried about losing the expansion draft. Columbus. Now, Columbus is interesting because Hartnell, no movement. Foligno, no movement. Dubinsky, no movement. Clarkson, no movement. Now, there's rumors that they're working on Clarkson being sent to Vegas in order to get Vegas up to the cap floor. He's going to go on IR anyways, so he's going to get taken off of there right away. But this would allow them to protect Boone Jenner. They have Saad, Dubinsky, Foligno, Clarkson, Hartnell, Atkinson. That's 6 guys right there. And then you've got Calvert, Carlson, I believe, is still needing to be protected. And then on the blue line, you've got Jones, Johnson, Savard, Murray. And none of these guys have no movement clauses, so everybody has to be protected. It's quite possible Columbus loses a big name player. But I think they'll lose him before the expansion draft. Dallas, I don't think there's a lot of no movements there either. Ben, Spezza, they're not going to get asked. And no movement clause to Ben Bishop. Obviously, they're not going to. We're going to expose Ben Bishop. What are you doing? Be like Vancouver with Van Beesbrook. I still shake my head at that one, and that was 20 years ago. Detroit, the only one. Abdelkader's no trade clause. I could see them asking him to waive that to protect somebody else, because $4.2 million for the next 6 years. My God, how do these guys get these huge bloody long-term contracts? How are GMs still giving out these really long-term contracts to guys who are replaceable, like an Abdelkader? Decent goal scorer at times, but in general replaceable. Edmonton, yeah, there's no concern in Edmonton. There's nobody in Edmonton that has a no movement clause that they would ask to, hey, Lucic, we want to give you away. No. Florida. I don't think Florida has a lot to worry about. They don't. The only no movement clause is Yandel. Interestingly enough, according to Elliot Friedman, Florida may be asking Yandel to waive that. I'm only telling you secondhand information from another website. I'm not telling you that I believe it for a second, because Yandel's a guy they just invested in last summer. And if they protected, say, Ekblad, Yandel, and Demers, Matheson is a defenseman who could be exposed. And I don't think, while I like Matheson a lot, I can't see them losing a lot of sleep over him, particularly. I still think Petrovic would be more likely to be taken than Matheson, but that's me. Either way, I don't think they're going to have a problem in Florida. I can't believe the report that apparently Yandel's been asked to waive his, because Vegas would grab Yandel and then trade him to somebody. Everybody's going to want a shot at Yandel if that's the case. Kings and Kopitar, I'd be very surprised if they don't ask Kopitar to waive. Look, it's $10 million per, and it's for at least the next 7 years. Kopitar's not being taken by Vegas. I just can't see it. Although he's the only one that they'd have to worry about protecting. And the last time I did an expansion draft projection, I projected Trevor Lewis as the one that was going to go out of LA. So I don't think they've really got anything to worry about there. But if they did, that Kopitar, yeah, nobody's going to take that $10 million per right now. Not the way he played last year. Minnesota, rumor has it, Pominville is on the list of guys that's going to be asked to waive their contract, or their no movement. Parisi's at $7.5 million, but they're not going to ask him. Eric Stahl, obviously they're not going to ask him. He's only got a modified no trade. Koivu, yeah, right, they're going to ask Koivu to waive. No. Suter, absolutely not. So that's the only Minnesota piece that they have, is potentially Pominville. It makes sense. I don't know, though. It's weird. It's like, so if you're a Minnesota fan, and if Jason Pominville says, no, I'm not going to waive, is this sort of like how when Dan Hamhuis apparently said, I'm not accepting a trade at the deadline for the Canucks last season, Canucks fans vilified him? It's in his contract. He doesn't have to get traded if he doesn't want to. I don't understand that. If he cared about the team, he'd waive his no movement clause. He'd waive his no trade clause. Why? He signed it. The team signed it. It was an agreement they both came to. The team's coming to him and asking him, and he's saying, no, I want to stay here. Montreal's only one with a no movement clause is Petrie. They aren't going to lose Petrie because they're not going to ask him to waive. Nashville. And that's Nashville. There's nobody in Nashville that they're gonna ask, because there's nobody to ask. And let's go to the Metropolitan Division for the next few teams. Jersey. I can't see there being anybody here. Ryan Clough, who's on the IR, he's never going to play again. They don't even have to protect him. There were certain players who were not eligible to be protected. The NHL was like, don't bother about it. And Ryan Clough and David Clarkson's also on that list. So it's interesting because if they take Clarkson, I don't know how they're going to work this. Because yeah, Clarkson's not even on the list. That's weird. That doesn't allow them to protect anybody extra. I'm not sure what Columbus is thinking on that one. Tavares and Ladd are both no movement clauses. Can't see Tavares being moved. I still think Tavares is going to stay on the island. I just don't know how. Boychuk's got $6 million per for the next 5 years. He's 33. The potential is there for the Islanders to say, okay, we're going to ask Johnny to waive so that we can protect Hamonic and or DeHaan or whoever, and keep more guys in house and not worry about it. But I don't know if Boychuk would be tempting for an expansion team or not. I really don't. Maybe as a guy they can flip, but that contract at $6 million per for the next forever. Rangers. Nash, $7.8 million next year. They might ask him. He's got modified no trade and he's got no movement. Dan Girardi, no movement, modified no trade. They could ask him. Mark Stahl as well. It was pointed out in an article I saw today. Mark Stahl's a more likely one than Girardi to get asked, but Stahl's 3 years younger. And for that reason, I think Girardi's more likely to be asked. So that's that division. Let's go back over the Atlantic and go look at the Ottawa Senators. I don't think there's going to be a lot here either. Bobby Ryan, of course, they've talked about asking him. Apparently, he's ready to agree because he knows that his 5 more years at $7.25 million isn't going anywhere. And Phaneuf apparently has been asked. There's rumor that they've asked Phaneuf to waive so they could protect Mathot, Ceci, and Carlson. That could potentially be tough for Dion. Just being exposed like that. It's not that you're, like let's say Dion's exposed and nobody takes him. It's kind of a humiliating experience as a player. But with the amount of verbal abuse that Dion's taken over the last however many years, I don't know that he'd necessarily be vulnerable to that. Philly, Giroux, yeah, though they're not going to ask. Filppula has a modified no trade and no movement clause. They would definitely be asking him. He probably would, and he's not going anywhere. There's no chance. No chance. The Penguins. So the Penguins who have Malkin and Crosby. Yeah, right. Kessel. Yeah, no. Kessel staying there. Letang. Nope. And, of course, Fleury. And they could ask Fleury, and then that would allow them to expose Fleury. Fleury gets taken by Vegas. Vegas works out a deal with Calgary. Everybody ends up happy except Penguins fans. But that could happen. Pittsburgh. Yeah, I'll go with San Jose next. San Jose. Nothing up front to worry about, and nothing on the blue line except Vlasic's got no trade, but they're not going to... Vlasic's not going anywhere. Like, you're like, oh, geez, we wish we could get rid of Mark Edward Vlasic. He's making everybody else look bad. Brendan Dillon's been depressed for years. St. Louis. Berglund got a no movement clause with that $3.8 million for 5 years. Holy crap. Dear God. No trade clause for Peter Angelo and Bouwmeester. They're not going to get asked. Steen and Stastny. They're not going to get asked. There's no way. Just no way. Tampa. No movement clauses for Callahan and Stamkos. I could see them asking Callahan. His $5.8 million for the next 3 years. That should be safe from expansion. Hedman. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. No trade clauses. Garrison, Strawman, Coburn. I can't see any of those. Maybe Garrison. And Garrison wouldn't get taken in expansion. He's not an expansion-friendly contract age guy who's going to be in, he's not a guy that they can then flop for something else. I know it's flip, but I'm saying flop in this case. Toronto. Nathan Horton has a no movement clause because Columbus. Modified no trade. He's on the IR forever. So maybe him and Clarkson are united in Vegas and they can, enjoy their time in Vegas. I don't know. And then there's nothing else to worry about in Toronto at all. We can all sit and criticize Toronto all we want, but man, they've done a good job with their contracts. We'll see how it works out when all these entry levels of guys like Nylander and Austin Matthews and that other Marner kid. I hear he's pretty good too. When those contracts expire, we'll see how good they are then. Vancouver's got Sedin, Eriksson. A yes to asking Eriksson to move his no movement clause out of the way, please. No trade clause for Brandon Sutter. I don't mind Sutter. No trade clause for Edler. I could see them asking him, but why? So you can protect Sbiza? There's not a lot. There's not a lot in Vancouver to worry about. I would think Eriksson, you'd ask him to waive just on the off chance that Vegas decides to take him. Please. It was a bad year for him, yes, but it's just at his age and with the way that he just doesn't seem to fit in with the team at all. I can't see it getting better next year. Not with the fact that the team's not likely going to get better next year either. God, Washington doesn't have a first-round pick, second-round pick, or third-round pick. Well, they might as well not bother with the draft then. There are no issues in Washington, though, with no trade, no movement clauses. None. Last team in the list, Winnipeg. And Winnipeg is clean except for Enstrom and Bufflin. I could see Enstrom being asked if they decide that they want to protect another defenseman. But I would think they could expose Myers and not worry about Vegas taking Myers or, trying to grab him and then flip him for something else. I just can't see it. So there you go. My opinion on all 30 teams, no movement clauses. Let me know what you guys think. I apologize for this being a little longer than normal. But when you're going through all 30 teams, it's going to take a little while longer. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for watching.